And in tag team action, Abdullah the Butcher, teaming with Buzz Sawyer to take on the Rich Cousins, Johnny Rich and Wildfire Tommy Rich.
You know what it amounts to? Last week in Columbus, Georgia, you know, I had Super D. I had him beat. Had the sleeper hooked on him. He was going out. Seemed like every damn time that I turned around, Buzz Sawyer's behind my back doing something, and I'm sick and tired of it. So I said, give me Sawyer once and for all. Sawyer didn't have the guts for a single. You know, just like I said, right now, Sawyer, anytime, anywhere, any place. And it's happening right here in Columbus, Georgia. You know, you went out, yeah, you think you got you Abdullah the Butcher. I've seen him eat raw fish. I've seen him do it all, brother. But you ain't got nothing. Because just like I told you before, Sawyer, a country boy can't survive. Columbus, Georgia, I'm bringing Johnny. Yeah, you know, he might come out here and say, Johnny ain't got the experience. Johnny ain't ready. Johnny's got the heart. He's got the desire. And when it's all over, we're going to whip you. And I don't care. If we have to fight up in the buildings, that's exactly what we're going to do. You know, because I'm fed up to here, man. I can't take it no more. Just like I said, Super D, I had him beat. And, you know, just like I said, I want a shot at Ric Flair. He cost me that. Every time he's a thorn in my side. Columbus, Georgia, you're going to get it.
Title belts to Hall of Fame. Doug and Tommy carved the name. Fists of fury and hearts of gold. Every story, every fight retold. Tales of glory, laughter, and cry. Tennessee warriors with hearts open wide. Living without a care. On the mic they roar, on the map they soar. Dangerous conversations, fans wanting more. Podcast kings ruling the waves. Memphis wrestling raising the stage.
Hey everybody, welcome once again to Dangerous Conversations with Dangerous Doug Gilbert and Tommy Wildfire Rich. Guys, what's going on?
Somebody say something about Mean G. G, what are you doing, man? Hey, no, it's good to be here, man. Looking forward to another good night. Always a pleasure. A lot of fans calling in, sending me texts, man. Spread the word. You know, Dangerous Conversations with Doug Gilbert and Tommy Wildfire Rich. They going good, spreading like wildfire. Hey.
Man, everything's going great, G. How about yourself?
Doing good, man. We got a lot of great feedback off of episode 25 where we talked about your dad, Tommy Gilbert, and his birthday and all the great matches and memories that we talked about on that show. And this week, we've had a lot of people. I posted on social media over the weekend that we're going to be talking about one of the legendary feuds of wrestling right here today. But before we get to that, I feel it's necessary. This is going to drop, you know, like it always does on Thursday night. A lot of people listen to it on Friday. As they're listening to this, you guys are going to be headed to Wynne, Arkansas this Saturday, February the 1st, right?
Yes, sir. Hey, it's going to be a big weekend in Arkansas. Hey, I'm flying into Memphis Friday. Anybody want to throw a party Friday night, I'm open. So let us know, man. But, yeah, we got a big weekend in Wynne, Arkansas. Looking forward to that. Got a big meet and greet, and then we're going to wrestle that night. Some old school wrestling, and looking forward. I always love to come to Memphis and wrestle because, you know, that Memphis wrestling was the wrestling.
You can't beat the Mid-South Coliseum, Gene, and that's Memphis wrestling. Now, the stuff today, I'm not too sure about, but I don't want to knock anybody or anything, but when Tommy, my dad, my brother, myself, a ton of people, everybody that come through WWF come through Memphis. I mean, y'all both know that and everything. And I mean, I love Memphis wrestling. It's just the Memphis wrestling now is kind of not the same.
No, it's definitely not. And if you don't believe us, just watch it and you can come to your own conclusions there. But yeah, man, Win Arkansas is going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be a good mix of old school legends and some newer people, but some of the folks you guys know, downtown Bruno, the grapplers, different people going to be there. So it should be a lot of fun. You folks come on out there. Like Doug said, it's going to be a meet and greet fan fest in the afternoon, matches at night. So come hang out with the Memphis Mafia, then come watch them in action, and keep checking the Facebook as we're adding dates all the time for these guys. These guys are staying as busy as they ever have out there on the road, making stuff happen. They're meeting, they're greeting, they're wrestling. They'll party with you. Whatever you want to do, Doug and Tommy, they've got you covered, right?
Hey, believe me, if you want to party, Tommy will party with you.
Tommy will party with you. Doug will ride a Peloton next to you, and
there you go.
Whatever you want to do. So, yeah, check the website for dates, and if you want to bring Doug Gilbert and Tommy Rich to your event, remember it's Doug Gilbert Podcast at Outlook.com, and I'll get you in touch with these guys and get them headed to your event, whatever that might be, real soon.
Hey, let's don't forget this coming Saturday night in Red. Well, it'd be Saturday afternoon, won't it, Dougie? Saturday afternoon, do a meet and greet, and then Saturday night we wrestle. So it's Red, Arkansas. It's going to be a big night.
It sure is. And, Gene, everybody around there, the old school Memphis wrestling, they'll be proud to see everybody, I'm sure.
Hey, and a big shout out to my man, Jamie J, man. He put it all together. Hey, looking forward to it. Like I said, it's going to be a big, not just a big night. It's going to be a big afternoon, a big night, too. So I'm excited about that. Like I said, I'll be in Friday. Looking forward to getting out in Memphis, checking it out.
And Jamie J, that's his hometown, right, Tommy?
Yes, sir. Ren, yes, sir.
Yeah. Jamie J, everybody be happy to see him also.
All right. So, guys, one of the famous feuds of the 80s, fans from that that grew up in the 80s, when you ask them what's some of the biggest feuds, of course there's a lot of great feuds in Memphis everybody talks about, but if they're talking about Georgia, the first feud they're going to mention, the most memorable feud of all, Tommy Wildfire Rich against Mad Dog Buzz Sawyer. And we haven't really gotten a chance to get into that here. And so I thought this would be fun to have this show about that. And we've been getting a lot of people messaging, a lot of people commenting and liking it on the social media. So I thought, hey, what a time to talk about it. Tommy, that, everybody talks about the big cage match. And, yeah, that was a big deal. And we're going to get there. But it was a long road to that cage match. That didn't just you guys didn't. It ain't like these days when teams start feuding or guys start feuding, and 4 weeks later we're blowing it off in a cage. Like this started in '82, right?
Yeah, it was probably one of the longest feuds in the history of professional wrestling. I think we went around the loop for about 2 years, man, before we ever got to the last Battle of Atlanta. Yeah.
So the very first time that as far as looking through records and everything, the first time you and Buzz Sawyer stepped into a ring together was actually a battle royal in 1979 in Columbus, Georgia. That battle royal featured Andre the Giant, Ernie Ladd, Stan Hansen, Bobby Jaggers, just a whole host of big stars. Tony Atlas was in there that you would come very familiar with over the years. Looks like Ricky Fields, Killer Carl Cox, a lot of big names in there, but you and Buzz Sawyer was amongst them. What's your earliest memories of Buzz Sawyer, and how did he strike you as far as just a person before you guys ever tied up in the ring?
I don't know if Buzz was a person or not. He was like a damn wild man, to be honest. But I just remember in 1979, God, you talking about Ernie the Cat Ladd, Andre the Giant. Can you imagine being in the ring with just that cast of characters, and Mad Dog Buzz Sawyer? I mean, the first thing I remember him was Ole Anderson. Ole loved Buzz. That they had one of them relationships. Of course, Ole, I always liked him old tough guy. And Buzz was tough, but I just remember Buzz. He's always slobbering and carrying on, and I remember on TV he just killed everybody, and then even he would kill he just beat daylights out of him. One day old, he come to me and he said, and Buzz was getting over, but he was getting over. And I remember only saying, you think you draw money with him? I said, well, and like I said, I'm from that old school, but I knew what them Funks and the Briscoes and the Gilberts and them did. I was at Hollywood. I was a Jackie Fox, in which Jackie was tough, and I ain't saying tough either. But just I seen Buzz killing them people, and you give your body to somebody, it's one thing to get in there and know you're going to fight somebody, but you give somebody your body, you expect them to take care of you. And that's pretty much was my deal. I said, well, he'll work with me, take care of me. I think we can draw money. I said, but if he gets in there and beats the daylight out of me like he does some other guys, I said, nope, I can't draw no money with him. And so me and Buzz, we sat down and had a talk, and one thing led to another. And of course, he beat the shit out of me pretty much all the time. But it was still, but I seen him just hurt people.
But
he was rugged like that old school wrestling, and he come from a wrestling background, and it was just always solid, But he always, he'd see Harley Race do a suplex on the floor. Well, he tried out on me. Needless to say, I said okay, but a couple of times, because I knew he was going to do it if I said yay or nay anyway. So he did it a couple of times, and he hurt me, and I'd shy away from that stuff. But as long as you let him do something every now and then he thought was really cool, he was all right with me,
And he was just a cool guy, right, Tommy? I mean,
yeah, he was. But he always took care of me. I mean, too many people gonna tell you he was a cool guy, but he was cool.
I don't hear a lot of that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about. I laugh like, what about him walking around the airport with his shorts and?
Oh, I've seen. Hey, him. We was in Saginaw, Michigan one time. And him and Ivan Koloff, and I don't remember who else was with him. There about 4 of them in the car. Well, Buzz had picked him up, a young lady in Saginaw, and it was going almost knee deep probably on the roads. And anyway, Buzz picked this girl up. Well, anyway, he didn't know she's underage, I don't guess. But anyway, they coming back, and all of a sudden, the helicopter shining the light, and what happened? The girl's sister had told him that Buzz kidnapped her, but she went on her own free will. But anyway, they had police cars on the road. I'm talking snow was on the road and stuff. And anyway, I mean, I just heard the story, but they had the helicopter with the light on them, got them pulled over. But what made me think about it is Dougie talking about him in the store. He had shorts, flip-flops on, and a cut-off sleeve T-shirt, and it probably, 5 below zero, whatever it was. And then police all got out of the car, made them lay on that ice and stuff. And of course, the girl said she came of her own free will, But they got the butt, but Buzz, everywhere, a couple of times before he come up to me and said, hold this or something. I said, hell no. He be snorting and carrying on, But different kind of cat,
But what I was talking about, Tommy, what about him walking around in the airport in the shorts?
Oh yeah. I mean, and when they shorts, you talking about hot pants shorts. He had on up to his butt cheeks.
What the girls call booty shorts.
Yeah. And I mean, he wouldn't have nothing on under his shorts.
Oh, that's what he had on that night. They pulled him over in that police car. He was laying in that snow, and they had him handcuffed.
But I mean, he'd go through the airport. He'd go through the airport, and his stick be sticking down the road shores. It was just, he shocked me. I just couldn't wait. He was a wild man, like Tommy said.
Now, kind of to the point you were making a minute ago, Tommy, I've heard you say in interviews over the years that you kind of ended up in an angle with Buzz because nobody wanted to work with him because he was bad to hurt people. And so I think it's good to remind people for context here. In 1982, if somebody injures you in a match, you're not going to go sit home on a contract and make money for 6 months while you heal. If this guy hurts you, you're not making money if you're not in the ring, right? So it's very important for you to be able to trust your opponent. So I can see why a lot of guys might be a little nervous about working with a guy like Sawyer that's known to hurt people.
Well, and see, that's where I was lucky because he knew I was money. And so he was always, I ain't going to say he was gentle with me. He was gentler with me than he was other folks. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So like you said, you guys, feuded throughout 82 and then into 83, but you're going around and you're wrestling him all over. Like I'm sitting here looking through results and, Augusta, Chattanooga, Columbus, Lansing, Michigan, Ohio, just night after night after night, you're having matches with him. You're having coal miners glove matches, Falls Count Anywhere matches, street fights. And you had numerous cage matches throughout that time period too. And from what I hear from people over the years is just the reason it didn't get stale and people didn't get tired of it because you guys just kept upping the ante on the brutality and the blood and the violence, and people were just like, what's going to happen next? One of these guys is going to kill each other, right? Is that something you guys talked about, or is that just kind of just naturally the progression of it?
Oh, well, hey, Buzz like that. He was an animal. So it was survival. It was survival out there. I was always leery, but there again, like I told him, I said, if you go out there and he'd wrestle with me, but it was rugged every night. And Buzz, like they tell you to go 15, Buzz like to go 30 or 40. That was just him. So, I was always ready for a 30-minute match. And I've seen him eat 2 hot dogs before a match, and he'd say, I'd throw him out of the ring, and he'd crawl up under the ring, throw up, and come back in, where he done eat 2 hot dogs. He was a crazy man. I seen him one night. We wrestled in Williamson, West Virginia, and there wasn't but one little store that was open after the matches. We had pulled up. We went in, got our beer, Coke, whatever we was getting. So anyways, we was getting ready to leave. Buzz come pulling in, and some guy got out there and was telling him, I didn't even hear the conversation, but all of a sudden I see Buzz grab him. He gives him a suplex out there on the pavement. It had to hurt Buzz as bad as it did him, and that's it. Of course, we just left and got the heck out of Dodge because we didn't want to be involved in none of it. But he was just, he was oh man.
And so you guys got tons of magazine coverage at the time. Like I go back and look through magazines from the 80s and man, there's so many stories and covers and everything. Doug, what do you remember? You're a fan in 82 and 83. Of course, your dad and brother's in the business. What do you remember hearing about this Buzz Sawyer, Tommy Rich feud at the time?
Oh man, it was so good. It was so real, like Tommy said. And Buzz, amateur wise, could do anything too, right, Tommy? He could freaking go, and he was wild. He was wild.
That's why I liked him. Only liked them guys that could wrestle and stuff like that. And Buzz, Ole loved Buzz. Later let him be the booker. He was the booker for Ole. At the end of
how was that, Tommy? Was Buzz a good booker, or?
Well, I think he just carried the game plan for Ole. I think that's what it was. Ole had stopped hitting the road so much. He let Buzz be in charge because I guess he thought nobody would give Buzz no lip about what he had to do. But he put a lot of faith in Buzz.
He knew what nobody was saying nothing back to Buzz, didn't
he? Yeah.
Now another way you guys kept that. Go ahead.
But I'm sorry, G. What I was going to say though, you'd watch Superstation and everything and see all the angles and everything was so great with Tommy and Buzz and everything. I mean, it was drawing so much money. I mean, the Omni, how many times, Tommy, you even know how many times you and Buzz sold the Omni out?
No, shit. 2 years we wrestled there once a month, and it was always, if we wasn't the main event, we was next to the main event. And but the Omni kind of like Mid-South Coliseum. You bring the whole package in for it. We do the Atlanta City Auditorium, and then at the end of the month, we'd hit, the Omni. And, of course, Atlanta City Auditorium, I mean, it was kind of like the Louisville Gardens, man. It was a building about that size, I would say. Maybe a little bit bigger, but then we do the thing, and they bring Big Dusty in, and, of course, Ernie the Cat Lad and Andre. Everybody wanted to be on 17, and I was so blessed, to be there. And to have the angle Buzz even, I mean, it took a toll on me, though.
Yeah, it'd have to.
Took a toll on you.
Yeah. I mean, you're wrestling him six nights a week at least. I mean, and he wasn't killing me, but it was a fight every night.
It was like being in Japan, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So another way they kept the feud fresh is they would mix in tag matches. But now, Doug, listen to some of these tag team matches that Tommy was in here. Like, here's one. You got Stan Hansen and Tommy Rich versus Buzz Sawyer and Ivan Koloff. And then you've got Tommy and Paul Orndorff against Buzz Sawyer and Ivan Koloff. Then you got Texas Tornado Death Match, Buzz Sawyer and Ole Anderson against Butch Reed and Tommy Rich.
Well, and all of those were being great matches, but I guarantee you Tommy was glad there was tag matches.
Yeah. And that's what kind of kept it fresh too, though. And that was a good thing about me in Atlanta too. I got to have a run in a single and then go into a tag match. And that's what kept me fresh too, was the different faces. And that's what really kept that angle fresh, because of the different, we'd run a 6-week deal with a tag match and then go back to the singles. Like you said, hell, we had them from street fight to cage matches,
And that was all great talent. And, I mean, it was good booking also. It had to be and everything. But, I mean, it was just so hot right then. Right, Tommy?
Oh, yeah. And especially, and like you said, I mean, when it was Georgia Championship Wrestling and we was just wrestling in Georgia, the angle probably wouldn't have lasted that long. But we started going up north to Saginaw, Michigan, Toledo, Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, Parkersburg, West Virginia, Huntington, West Virginia. So, I mean, we were scattered out all over the country, really. So that kept it fresh, too, I mean, and it was. I mean, a lot of people tell you they didn't like work with Buzz, but, I never had no problem with him. It was, like I said, every now and then, and when he come to me and wanted to try something new, that's when I always got hurt. It wasn't just with like wrestling, I got hurt, but when he come up with a new idea, that's when I got hurt.
Yeah.
Hey guys, Ray Russell here, curator of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, inviting you guys to listen to many of the programs here as part of the WrestleCopia brand, including, but not limited to, the Wrestling Memory Grenade, currently covering the 1988 and the WWF project. You can also listen to the Regional Wrestling Podcast, where we talk the territories. You can also listen to the Wrestling Stoop with the legend himself, Bob Roop. But that's not all. You can also check out the Puro Wrestling Academy with the professor of Puro Resu, Mr. Dan Ginnity. Dan and I go back in time and cover the history of Japanese professional wrestling in the English language. And you can listen to all of those shows and more, all part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, located over at WrestleCopia.com. That's WrestleCopia.com, and anywhere your podcast streaming needs are met. So if you're looking to support that next up-and-coming podcast brand, please consider making it WrestleCopia.
Hey everybody, Gene Jackson here, inviting you to check out the Retro Wrestling Review, where each week I'm joined by some great co-hosts who help me review classic episodes of USWA Championship Wrestling, and right now we are doing week-by-week reviews of 1993. But we don't just do reviews. Sometimes we get a chance to interview some of the people who were there and lived it, plus do watch-alongs. It's a lot of fun, so check out new episodes that drop every Wednesday at WrestleCopia.com. And to find links to everything associated to the podcast, you can go to USWApodcast.com.
So here's a 6-man tag: Ole Anderson, Ivan Koloff, and Buzz Sawyer. Now listen to this combo right here: Tommy Rich, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, and Ray Candy. Now that's 3 people you wouldn't picture together in a team, but I imagine that was a pretty formidable team. It looks like you guys got the win in that one in Cincinnati, Ohio. You did that match, and then you're in Columbus, Georgia. So y'all took that around for quite a bit there. What was it like teaming up with Paul Orndorff? You know, Buzz is a pretty intense guy, but from all accounts, Paul Orndorff's a pretty intense guy too, right?
Oh, Paul was a bad man too. Yeah. You guys said that guy about it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Paul hold his own. Yeah, let me tell you. I mean, and hey, Paul's a cool guy too, man. I enjoy traveling with Paul some. Very special person. You know, I always got along with Paul. But like you said, of course, he was from Tampa. So that's where the bad boys come from anyway. You know, I think Buzz worked out a little bit down there. He lived down in St. Petersburg for a while. You know, Buzz was from around Chillicothe, around that Ohio River or something. But yeah, Buzz was down there in St. Pete and wrestled some down there and then come to Georgia.
Now, here's another fun tag team here. I think Doug's going to like this one. You're taking on Buzz Sawyer and Ivan Koloff, Marietta, Georgia, Tommy Rich, and Dick Murdoch tag team in there. Looks like y'all had a few different tag matches together.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Doug can tell you more about Dick. Dick, I like Dick. We wrestled together. Hey, and you talk about another hell of a worker. You know, Dick, of course, he was one of them bar knocker-outers, too. He'd knock you out in a heartbeat. You know, Dick would.
Yeah.
Yeah, I teamed up with him some, traveled with him a little bit. Not as much as Dougie did, but yeah, Dick Murdoch, he was good people.
Oh yeah, he was one of the best and everything. I love traveling with him, and I had great times with him. But I guarantee you that they had a good match.
Oh yeah, definitely. Another guy you teamed with here against Buzz Sawyer and Ole Anderson is a guy you worked against a lot. Not a lot. Some people are going to be shocked to hear that you guys teamed, that he was actually a babyface here for a while. That's the Masked Superstar, Bill Eadie.
Bill Eadie, one of the best in this business, a gentleman outside and inside the ring, man. And back in the day, I wrestled him for the Georgia heavyweight title and stuff. You know, what a gentleman, great guy, Bill Eadie. Yeah.
Yeah, he would come in the dressing room with a newspaper, and he would look at the stock market plan. He was just a businessman. I mean, he was actually a tough business. I mean, he had a lot of sense. He was a real smart guy, and he could wrestle, and he had psychology, and all this too helped get Tommy over. Being with all those guys, which Tommy got himself over. But what I'm saying, they put, Tommy was with all the best, and I mean, Tommy was the best seller there was during that time period. I mean, the people got behind Tommy more than they got behind anybody. And I mean, that's what got Tommy over, I think. I mean, Tommy might have a different aspect on that. But Tommy's working was great. I didn't mean that. But I mean, his selling and everything. And I mean, the people just bought everything that he did. Don't you agree, Tommy?
And when you dance with the best, if it don't rub off on you, then I was very blessed. I mean, even like Dougie, the best, just like Georgia, the best come through Memphis too, and that's where I started and had the opportunity to work with. Shoot, I mean, like I go back and I told you about sitting in the hotel room with Danny Hodge and Big Bad John and Tommy Gilbert was there, and I don't know, it's like a room full of guys, man. I just sit around in awe, listening to them tell stories and stuff, and then went to Georgia. And, of course, everybody wanted to come to Georgia to be on that Atlanta TV. So I got to wrestle the best of the best, and they could either said yay or nay on me, and but they all helped me and taught me stuff. And yeah, I was so blessed. And then when it come to me and Buzz, I had to learn from these guys. So we carried it on. And Buzz was smart to the business. He just was old mean little son of a bitch. English.
So y'all touched on something I've been wanting to talk about on this show for a little while now, and I'm interested to hear your opinion on this. I kind of know what it's going to be, but you talked about the importance of Tommy selling, and that's what helped make him a babyface superstar. And that's so true. I mean, Jerry Lawler got over as a babyface selling. Ricky Morton, perhaps more famously than anybody, got the Rock and Roll Express over selling. Jerry Jarrett, was, sympathy is how he got over, and not dying in the ring.
Well, that's see, like when I went to Georgia, I was on cornbread boy. Most of them guys were big and built up, and most of the guys, and so when I come into Georgia, I was like the first of that type, as far as little guys selling, and of course the big, Bill Eadie and them guys, Kim Matera, Olympic champion, I wrestled him for the Georgia heavyweight title, and they just took and put me under their arm and showed me stuff. Kim Matera could tie me up in 22 knots, but he took because he seen business because I sold, and it was something that, that they hadn't seen there. Like in Georgia, like you said, Jerry Jarrett. There's always been guys that sold in Tennessee because that's the business. Like up north in New York, they, it's all big guys versus big guys there. And when I went to Georgia, I was the smallest guy there probably that was drawing money. And but it was just a great opportunity for me, and so blessed that all them guys took an interest in me and helped me.
And Gene, Tommy had the look that they hadn't seen and everything. And like I say, and I always say this, Tommy was Hogan before Hogan was Hogan. And anybody can disagree if they want to, but
no,
that's true.
I totally agree. And you know what people miss, I think, that they don't understand? And I think Hogan watched guys like Tommy, probably Tommy specifically. Hogan, it was big guys, Hogan, a big guy wrestling other big guys. Hogan spent most of his match selling for those big guys, and then he made the big comeback. But the match got over on him spending the whole time selling and getting beat down and then thinking he can't come back. Then he hulked up. But I've been arguing with people for years, and a lot of people get mad at me for saying this. And they're like, who drew more money than anybody? And, of course, he did. But Stone Cold Steve Austin, while, yes, he sold more tickets and merch than anybody on earth and all that stuff, I have contended for years that he ruined baby faces in wrestling because people who grew up on Steve Austin, I heard them getting in the business, and they didn't want to sell for anybody. They want to always be the badass and come in and clean house and like, oh, it would be bad for my character if I sell or if I look weak. And I don't think people understood what exactly he was doing and how the business had always worked. You guys being in wrestling, did you guys experience that where there come a time where all of a sudden baby faces don't want to sell? They always want to look like the world beater, like Steve Austin?
Well, here's the thing, Gene. I think, everything evolves, and I think Steve was great, but, you didn't have guys that followed in footsteps like you said, Tommy and Ricky selling and everything, and that just – when they saw guys like Steve Austin get over and everything, they want to be I'd laugh when the guy says a tweener. I can be a heel and a baby face. And everything. And I ain't got to sell. And I think, yeah, right, buddy, get over it and everything. But that's what changed, in my opinion. What do you think, Tommy?
Yeah, and I remember Steve when he was in Georgia. He come in there and had a little haircut and stuff, and but he sold his ass off, and of course when he went up there, it was a different horse too. It was a different world up north, than it was here. Because up north, you watching big guys, they beat the daylights out of each other, and if you got them to stagger, that it was just a difference in the business. And I think, like Doug said, I think you had to adjust to that. Because like I said, I seen Steve, he'd sell his ass off. in Georgia. I mean, and that's the way he learned. And I just think when you went up there, in which that's when Vince, of course, went WWE, the big show and everything, and it was changing with the times,
And I mean, like, Steve would come from Dallas to USWA here with us and everything. And I mean, but he was always a heel. And I mean, he sold his butt off, as a heel. And I mean, he was a great worker here before he went to WCW.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Steve Austin's a great worker. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he didn't know how to sell and he didn't learn the right way, but you had these guys who were just watching Monday Night Raw where he's out there stunning everybody. Because even on pay-per-views and matches, Steve Austin sold when it was time to sell. But these guys would watch Monday Night Raw on Monday night, and they'd see him stunning everybody and nobody really getting the best of him. And then they want to come to Corinth, Mississippi on Friday night and do the same thing. And it's like, dude, you're not – this isn't the same thing. What you're doing in Mississippi wrestling is not what they're doing on television on Monday night. It's two different.
Yeah, that's where you try to get me started up to say something on Memphis TV, wasn't it?
Oh, somebody did. I don't know if it was me, but I was in the room. That's for sure. That's for sure. But that's another podcast for another day. So tag team matches. Again, you had some really, really good partners along the way, and as we're into 83 now, we got Texas Death matches. We've got Texas Tornado matches. Tennessee Street Fight, which I assume was in your favor, Tommy. You're making Buzz wrestle the Tennessee Street Fight because you're the Tennessee boy, right?
Well, we just called it that. It was a street fight for me every fucking night. Street fight with Buzz every night. But I mean, but that was just them creating. I mean, just a different match. I mean, we did bunkhouse matches. We did anything they could come up with for a different name. That's what we did.
Yeah. Y'all did Georgia Street Fights, didn't you, Tommy?
Yeah. According to what town we was in, it'd be a Georgia Street Fight, a Columbus, Ohio Street Fight,
I got you. And then, so not long before we started getting in and getting close to the big cage match in Atlanta, there's a 2 out of 3 falls tag team match. You and Pistol Pez Watley taking on Buzz Sawyer and Paul Ellering. So how does Paul Ellering start to kind of figure into this?
Well, I don't know, because he didn't start with Buzz, but he come into the territory, and Paul was wrestling at first, and then I guess Odie just seen something there. Paul wasn't really getting over it, but Paul could talk on it too. And so anyway, they put them together, and of course you come to the big blow off when Paul Ellering was hanging up over the cage match too, But Paul was another Paul. I mean, you talk about somebody that don't get the credits they deserve. I mean, Paul did a lot in this business too.
Yeah, and I mean, Paul could work.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, he could talk. He could sure talk, and he could work also. I mean, I remember hearing Memphis work. And
yeah,
Gene, do you remember that? Are you too young for that?
I mean, I don't remember it in real time, but I know going back and watching tapes, I know like when Lawler broke his leg, Jimmy Hart made Paul Ellering the new king initially, and that's who they were going to go with, as the head of Jimmy Hart's stable.
Just hit the ring. Rich just hit the ring. And it's Rich after that headgear of Buzz Sawyer. Tommy Rich. The referee trying to separate him, and Tommy Wildfire Rich trying to rip that headgear off of Buzz Sawyer. And he's got part of it off, and he's Sawyer now trying desperately to battle his way out of this situation. The referee, the bell has been sounded, and we've got all 3 of them tied up in the referee is down, and it is Rich continuing to pound away after Buzz Sawyer. And the referee again trying to separate them now, and Sawyer in trouble. And Zbyszko, what is Zbyszko doing? Wait a minute, what is Zbyszko? Zbyszko, I think it certainly appeared to me that something transferred between him. And suddenly Sawyer caught Tommy Rich in the midsection with that helmet, and Rich went down like a felled ox. Rich back on his feet, but he is dazed and staggered, and it is... We've got complete chaos here. Wait a minute. The superstar just threw Tommy Rich a belt, and Tommy Rich is using that belt. Zbyszko caught, and it's a superstar catching Buzz Sawyer, putting him back in the ring. And man, oh man, oh man. And Sawyer is taking a beating now, and every time he tries to get up, that superstar rolls him back in. And Ole Anderson there trying to... Buzz Sawyer finally makes an escape. Buzz Sawyer finally makes an escape. But Tommy Wildfire Rich put the strap to him. He put the strap to him. And the superstar, he has certainly proven himself. Here's a man who has been embedded in a sea of controversy for some time. But in my opinion right now, the superstar has definitely proven his worth and proven himself here on World Championship Wrestling. Tuesday in Douglasville, Georgia. Next Wednesday.
I don't
in
mean to
Columbus,
interrupt
Georgia.
you, but I tell you what, I never thought that I'd see this man here come out and help Tommy Rich. But I want to thank him right now. Nationwide TV.
You don't have to thank me. We're going to take care of some business. I'm sick and tired of individuals like Buzz Sawyer, Zbyszko, Ole Anderson. If we have to chase you up north, out west, or down south, we're going to strap you like you should have been strapped years ago. I'm 110% behind him, behind Stan Hansen. It doesn't matter. Every time I get in that ring,
You know the
against Buzz Sawyer, it doesn't matter where it's at. You're going to get...
On the 20th.
So before you get to the last Battle of Atlanta, another one, you named off a whole plethora of gimmick matches you guys had, but one of the matches you guys had, and obviously you're going to have one, he's Mad Dog Buzz Sawyer, is a dog collar match. And I know famously Roddy Piper and Greg Valentine have both said dog collar match, they had to Starrcade, one of the most brutal matches they've ever had in their lives. And, you know, Piper had, you know, hearing loss in his ears and all this. How brutal was the dog collar match with Buzz Sawyer?
What no more brutal than wrestling him every night.
Just couldn't get away from him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Buzz took it. Of course, he clocked me with that chain a couple of times. You know, I mean, it ain't like the chains they use today when they have them matches. They kind of them like aluminum or light link chains. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Then back then they used them old long chains or you pull a car with. So
Oh my God.
even if you barely got hit, that damn chain hurt. You know, so yeah, but like I said, Buzz always took care of me, and of course I probably hit him as hard as he hit me sometimes, especially in the gimmick match. So it was, you know, but Buzz, I mean, overall, I mean, you figure going around with him 2 years and I didn't blow a knee out or I didn't have a neck injury or what. No, I didn't get hurt really bad. He hurt me a couple of times. I remember one time we was in Chattanooga. That's when he wanted to, had seen Harley do that suplex on the floor. And back then we didn't have no rubber mats on the floor. So
Right.
and I told him I had some hurt ribs even at the time. I think that he had done hurt. But anyway, he gave me a suplex on the floor. I told him no more. You know, I mean, but he was good. But he just always wanted to try something different.
So coming up October the 23rd is when we get to the last Battle of Atlanta. Now, before we get there to actually talk about that, I want to kind of back up a little bit. So WWF over the years, you know, they had their Hell in a Cell, which was a steel cage with a roof on the top. And people thought, oh, man, that's crazy. That's you know, where would they come up with something like that? Well, they came up with something like that because that is what you and Buzz Sawyer competed in this last Battle of Atlanta. It was not just a steel cage match, but it was a steel cage with a roof on top to ensure that it contained you guys because we're going to try to end this feud. You could see pictures of it in magazines, but for years and years and years, there was no footage of it anywhere. Nobody had ever seen, you know, any footage of it. And I remember when I got into tape trading as a fan, That was like the holy grail. Like everybody was always trying to find footage of the last Battle of Atlanta. And that's how people would rip people off and steal people's money. You'd have these guys pop up and be like, my friend knew Paul Ellering's cousin, and he got me a tape of it, and I have it right here, and I'll sell it for $100. And inevitably, somebody would offer them $100, and of course, they'd get it, and it'd be something else, you know. But everybody was always trying to find that tape, and finally, it was decided that it doesn't exist. There's just not a tape of it out there. And then in 2016, some guy who's scouring through all of the footage that they got when WWE had bought the tape library from WCW finds this tape, and they announced that they're going to put this on the WWE network. What do you remember, before we actually talk about the actual match, do you remember when someone first told you, Tommy, they have found footage of this famous cage match that you've been getting asked about, I'm sure, almost every day of your life since 1983. You've had to probably talk about it a lot. You remember hearing about it, and what did you think about that?
Well, I was talking about it with people that always ask me, and usually like they would film they would never film a blow off match, and like that was a blow off match. So, and for some reason they had the big camera there and filmed that, but nobody knew that, I don't guess. But back then, all that stuff was on 3/4 tape, 3/4 inch tape. So going through that stuff ain't as easy as slipping the DVD in and checking it out. So all of that stuff, I mean, and what they would do, they would go back, like if that tape, they would erase a lot of that shit.
Yeah.
And they thought it had been erased. And then, like you said, somebody was going through that stuff. But yeah, that's where they're telling the sale. That's where it originated from. I mean, you figure. I mean, the Omni sold out. I mean, and it was a raw Hell in the Cell cage. They had the cage on the side, and then this had some chain link over the top. And then Paul Ellering, he was in a damn little cage up over the ring. And I was more worried about him, that damn chain or whatever was holding him breaking loose, and him coming down and smushing us, Yeah. But yeah, it was wild. That was, and usually a cage match, you go 15 minutes at the most. Me and Buzz in that, I think we went close to 30 minutes almost, I think. Both of them bloody.
And see, Gene, back then, they'd bicycle those tapes around, right, Tommy, and they'd record over a lot of them.
Yeah.
I mean, and think of all them if you had those tapes today, every tape that was made. But, I mean, they would bicycle them around and record over them the next week so it wouldn't cost so much.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it cut down on the fee and everything. But imagine having all of those tapes and them not have been bicycled around and what you would have.
I know, it makes you sick because the reason when you find that old stuff, the quality is usually really terrible because it's just a tape that somebody recorded off a TV back in the day, and then they've ran copies off for years and years. So it's like a 20th generation copy. And those master tapes, like you say, most of the master tapes of those old territory promotions got taped over and erased. So most of it's lost to time. And for years, people thought that there was no tape at all of this cage match. And when they found out it existed, people lost their mind. Because like I was telling Tommy, like tape traders for years were searching for that. People had shelled out money, time and time again, thinking they had found it, and they never had.
I don't know. I think Tommy might have that.
Well, Tommy could have made some money if he'd have sold it before WWE found it in 2016. He would have got big time cash because, I mean, like I say, it grew into this big, like I say, you were either there or you saw pictures in a magazine, and that's it. There was no other way. They had never showed a clip on the TV show. There was nothing. It was just the stories people told, and it turned into like this big, over the years, it grew. The legend of it grew and grew and grew from the people who were there and saw it. you know. And I remember just being completely psyched whenever I heard they were putting it on the network. The day it came on there, I immediately had to go back and watch it because I'd been reading about this thing in 1983. I was in first grade. So I remember seeing it in magazines and hearing about it, but had no real point of reference as far as the actual feud and all that. I went back and saw all that, trading tapes and everything. And man, it was just really, really cool. So, I mean, going into that, did you guys have any specific direction from Ole? Like, hey, you guys have been killing each other for 2 years, but tonight's the night. Y'all got to go out here and really wrap this thing up. Or I guess you didn't have to tell Buzz that, right?
Gene, now you was in the what grade?
First grade.
I was in the eighth grade?
Probably, yeah. That sounds about right, based on our age difference.
Damn, y'all must be talking about my daddy in that cage. I kindergarten.
Tommy was 8 years old in the cage match with Buzz Sawyer. That's why it was so rough on him.
That's it. That'd be child abuse, wouldn't
it? Yeah. But it was shocking to me, just, you know, to make that journey with Buzz for 2 years and to know, and of all places to go to I get goosebumps now, to go to, you know, the Omni there in Atlanta, Georgia, and it be the final night. And the deal was, if I beat Buzz, Paul Ellering was over the ring in that cage, but if I beat Buzz, Ole Anderson got 5 minutes with him, and he got the 5 minutes with him. So it was, I mean, it was a big blow-off night that night.
So of all the great things you've done, have people asked you about that perhaps more than anything persistently over the years?
I would say that, or me hiding under the ring in Memphis, Tennessee, you know, when we shaved Lawler's head. You know, them probably my two biggest things. And, of course, the big Don up there, you know, in ECW, the FBI, because them Yankees sure didn't like me. Of course, Red Boy saying he's full-blooded Italian. So them, you know, but I've been very blessed, though. But, yeah, I've been involved in some good deals.
So, like you said, that was the blow-off, but things were a little different back then. Like now, they have a blow-off on a pay-per-view, and that's it. They are done. But like you said, those tapes were bicycled back then, and you went to different areas. So you guys on October 23rd had a steel cage match, and then most people don't realize on the 27th, you had a dog collar match in Tallahassee, Florida. And then on November the 2nd, you had another cage match in Wheeling, West Virginia. And then on the 3rd, you had another cage match in Altoona, Pennsylvania. So you guys had a few more to do to wrap it up in all the different towns.
Hey, Gene, did you look in to see what, like, those drew or anything?
So if this is correct, for the last Battle of Atlanta, it says there was 10,600 people in the Omni. What does the Omni hold? Like 10,000? So that was probably slightly over capacity, slightly over what they should have sold.
And Gene, to Tommy, like to me, the Mid-South Coliseum is the building, which it is. I know also Tommy, but also the Omni was like the Mid-South Coliseum. Tommy, I'm sure, right, Tommy?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was what they call it, the Madison Square Garden of the South, is what a lot of people say. So here's another little fun fact to tack on to the end of this. So you and Buzz had this feud for 2 years, and what a lot of people don't know or remember is November the 24th, 1983, you would team with Buzz Sawyer to take on the Road Warriors to challenge for the tag team titles, and then you and Buzz had a little bit of a run as a tag team briefly there. How was that? How was that received by the fans? That's what I should say.
It was a party.
Just happy you're not having to wrestle.
Hey, and thank God, Buzz. Thank God I had Buzz on my side, because them Road Warriors about as crazy as he was. They like to beat you up a little bit too, you know. So I had somebody to give as good as we get, you know. So that was a good one, though. That would have been a good match. Yeah.
I was fixing to say, I bet Tommy was glad Buzz was on his team.
No joke. No joke.
And you guys beat the Road Warriors, which was a rare feat in 1983. wasn't a lot of people beating the Road Warriors. So, you guys had this big feud. You blew it off there in the cage, and they were kind of the angle. You could kind of see they were kind of working towards maybe turning Buzz, and then it happened after the cage match. They revealed that Brett Sawyer was his brother, and the Road Warriors had injured him, and he didn't have a tag team partner. So his old nemesis, Tommy Rich, stepped in, and you guys beat the Road Warriors. And it wouldn't be long after that before the mysterious Mr. R would be showing up. But that's another podcast for another day, right?
And Gene, did the Road Warriors stay for a while after that, or did they go somewhere else?
They were in and out.
They traveled everywhere anyway.
Yeah.
But, I mean, did they stay in Georgia?
They came back. They wrestled them again the following month there at the Omni. It was a rematch with Buzz and Tommy, and then they had eventually we get to Brett Sawyer, Buzz Sawyer, and Mr. R against Animal Hawk and Paul Ellering in a 6-man tag.
What was the attendance on that?
Let's just see here. That one, 11,000. So they crammed a few more people in there. 400 more. So that's a pretty big statement there. But now that was on Thanksgiving. That was the Thanksgiving event that year.
The Omni Christmas, Thanksgiving. That was they would pack it, jam it out as many. They'd be hanging off the rafters. On the holidays. Back then, that's when. But every territory did that. They would do first. It was Thanksgiving night and Christmas night. Then it went to Thanksgiving Day, and as soon as you ate your turkey and stuff, you go do a Thanksgiving Day show, and then you go somewhere and do a Thanksgiving night show, and the same for Christmas. I mean, they would get all they could out of you.
Hey, is that where Ricky got that hanging off the rafters?
maybe that's where I got it.
Because they were hanging off the rafters everywhere the Rock and Roll Express went, buddy. No matter how big or how small the venue.
Still to today.
Well, there it is, folks. That is the famous blood feud between Tommy Rich and Buzz Sawyer. And
also, you mentioned this, Gene. I think me and Tommy have been a former podcast, but Tommy worked with Buzz. Tommy, what was it that Bert carried you and Buzz? Y'all drew a bunch of money?
Oh, South Dakota, yeah. We went up there. And that's another thing, Bert. I mean, people like Bert, like me and Doug, like, he got us out of jail up in Sistersville, West Virginia. Or he was a part of getting us out anyway. They took all our money, but we got out of jail. And but yeah, Bert, he didn't just run in Tennessee. He would run different areas, and we went to South Dakota, and of course Buzz robbed him, but up there though, and he did 2 different shows, and they both did I ain't positive, but they both did I think one did 15 grand and one did 18. I mean, Bert ran big shows too. I mean, Bert knew what he was doing, and he loved. I mean, and Buzz. I mean, Buzz drawed money. I mean,
and two. I mean, Buzz and Tommy together. That was money anywhere.
Oh yeah.
And old school promoting.
Well, Bert was certainly that, man. He would go into town, and I think we mentioned that on here before. Bert could go into any town anywhere in the country and have a show up and run and have TV and everything within 2 or 3 weeks. He knew how to do it.
And see, it's a shame these guys these days don't know how to do that.
No, that's a lost art.
I mean, you've got posters, you've got radio, you've got newspaper. I mean, just old school promoting. I mean,
Bert would do. We get off the subject, but Bert would do all of that. I mean, now then, today, these independents, their biggest rely is on Facebook, and which I think Facebook's good, but that's just gravy. You got to go out like Doug. and put them posters out, get them radios, and you got to do that footwork if you're gonna run like local towns and stuff like that. And when you do that, I think they do good business.
Yeah, traditionally they always have go in, get with the businesses in town, set up, them selling tickets and sponsoring. And the guy that I started out with, he was old school, and he would send me and Chris Kilgore into towns, and we'd go and do all the things you just described there.
Gene, who was the guy you started out with?
Sammy Hall.
I love those Sammy. He's a good guy. Yeah,
he was. And like I said, he had done it back in the day, like you're talking about, and that's how you did things. That's how he taught us.
Hey, he took care of me all the time. I mean, he was really good to me. He was a good guy. And I bought 3 or 4 rings from him.
Yeah, he could build a ring, man. They were some good bumping rings. People love those things. They come from all over.
Eddie Marlin got one of them rings from Dougie. Or no, Eddie Marlin sold Dougie a ring. Dougie didn't give him all. What was that deal?
Yeah, I bought a ring from Eddie Marlin, and then he called me back and told me I owed him $500 more for it. And I thought, all the shows you screwed us out of money on, I ain't giving you $500 more.
Call it even.
And he was my dad's partner for 10 years.
Yeah. That's funny. That was a funny story. Yeah.
So right here at the end, we're going to throw in, we got a couple minutes here. We got a fan question, and he posed this to Tommy, but I'm actually going to pose this to both of you because, Doug, you worked with this guy some in ECW as well. So a guy who identified himself as Drake the Snake, a listener of the show, said, what are your memories of working with Don Morocco in Georgia, which that's where Tommy worked with him. But now, Doug, you worked with alongside him in ECW as part of the Hot Stuff International / Dangerous Alliance. So whoever wants to go first can, but I'd like to hear both of your memories of Don Morocco.
Tommy, you want to go first?
Yeah. Hey, that Don, I love Don. He, of course, me and Roddy Piper was good friends, and he come into Georgia, and I didn't know him, but I heard stories about him. He was a man's man too. And anyway, we in Columbus, Ohio, one time, and I don't know if this is probably correct, but anyway, I don't care. Don says, "Come here a minute. We're in Columbus, Ohio, and it's just little dressing rooms, and it's got bathroom style." And Don says, "Come in here a minute." And I wasn't telling Don nothing. No, I partied a little bit, but anyway, I had a little sniff, and he said, "Here, hit this." And about that time, somebody banged on the door, and it was old Addison. He said, "God damn it, Oldie." He said, "You want some of this?" He said, "If you don't, get out of here." I thought, oh, my God. Anyway, we went about our business, and Oldie never said a word. Yeah, Oldie didn't want no part of Mr. Morocco. Yeah, Don was a tough man, too. And what a cool guy, though. I mean, he was just, very good people, man. I mean, I'm telling some of my party stories, but it don't matter.
Oh, I love Don also, man. He was, like Tommy said, he was one of the tough guys, which everybody in those days was the tough guys, but Don was like a cool, tough guy. And I mean, didn't nobody want to mess with him. I mean, I didn't know anybody wanted to mess with him. But I mean, we had good times in ECW up there when he come in. I mean, he was, super gentleman, and I mean, just a great guy. Anything business-wise, he was all for it.
Good head business. I mean, angles and stuff. Very, very smart about that stuff too. Yeah.
Yeah, from everything I've ever heard, he's a great guy and is a heck of a worker over the years and entertaining. I mean, even in stuff like those Fuji Vice skits and stuff in WWF, they were fun, but he was also a hell of a wrestler.
Well, he was and where I heard the first story, he was over when Mr. Barnett had Australia and New Zealand and all of that. That's when King Curtis and Don Morocco and all them guys was over there, and they were working for Mr. Barnett over there. And anyway, I just heard cool stories about him then. And then Roddy Piper come into Georgia, and then Don come in, which Don and Don and Roddy were good friends, and me and Roddy was good. So I met Don, and so I had my end. But yeah, just what a gentleman, though. Just very good people. Do anything in the world for you.
Yeah, and like Tommy said, he was so smart business wise. I mean, he could come up with anything. Also, I mean, angle wise and everything, and help out with. I mean, and that was a cool thing in ECW. Like my brother would tell him what he wanted and everything, and he'd say, "Is there anything that you think would make this better?" And if there was anything, he would tell Eddie. If there wasn't, he'd say, "Yeah, that sounds good to me." But I mean, he was just a gentleman, but I mean, he was a tough gentleman.
And see, and that's another story for another time too. But that's the way. And Dougie's mentioned this before too. That's the way the business used to be. I mean, the booker might have an angle, but if you had an idea and it was good, they was open to listen to it. They love fresh ideas, I mean, and like Don, and of course Eddie was a brain in this business anyway. But Dougie and me, now today, they're one direction. Whatever they say goes. It don't matter if what you say is better or worse. It don't matter.
Yeah.
You're gonna do what they say do, and we had that door to. We could improve a little bit, or if they better, then they would. They're open to listen. Whereas in today's world, I don't think they are so much.
No, definitely not. So, well, folks, if you're enjoying the show, and we hope you are, please help us spread the word. Tell your friends, share it on Facebook, wherever you do your social media at. Rate and review and subscribe to the show, and we sure appreciate all the support, all the feedback you guys give on Facebook and Twitter and everywhere. I appreciate it. I know Doug and Tommy appreciate it as well.
Yes, sir. Amy J, we'll see you this weekend in Wren, Arkansas. Everybody, don't forget about it. It's going to be a big afternoon, a big night. So y'all come on out, and thanks for listening. Tell your friends about us and tune in, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, like I said, it starts at 6. I think the meet and greet does, and me and Tommy will be right there signing pictures, taking pictures with everybody. Everybody come on out, and man, we can't wait to see all the old fans, all the new fans. Gene, we appreciate you getting all the attendance for the shows for us and everything, because you're the smart guy out of us three on here and everything. But anyway, like Tommy had to fight for his life for 2 years on this show that we're talking about. But anyway, listen, hey, we appreciate everybody listening. Like I said, come on out to win. Me and Tommy will sign, take pictures, whatever you want us to do with you, we'll do it and everything. But listen, peace. Everybody be cool.
Sport, of course, injuries are expected, and many times, however, injuries can be so debilitating that eventually they begin to affect you emotionally. And I can't help but feel, perhaps, Mr. Sawyer, that emotionally, perhaps you're just a little bit...
There's a lot of emotional things going on in my life right now. A lot of things happen. A lot of people in my life that I see that I ain't seen in a long time. I see, and it's bringing back memories, bringing back times when I was a little boy, bringing back times when I think I might grow up to be a bigger boy. I sometimes sit back and I think, yeah, I'm the mad dog, and I'm the best there is, and I never denied that, and I've always said it, and I always believe in it. But get that camera up here on me, and you'll see life has changed mine. Life has changed me. Wrestling has changed me. Tommy Rich, you have changed me.
Before we get out of here, I just want to take a moment to remind everyone, if you have an upcoming wrestling show, autograph signing, collector show, Comic-Con, or any event or booking that you would like to inquire about the services of Dangerous Doug Gilbert and or Tommy Wildfire Rich, just send us an email at DougGilbertPodcast@Outlook.com, and someone will get back to you as soon as possible to get more information on your event and do the best we can to make that happen. Also, if you are interested in advertising your event, your business, your product to the listeners of Dangerous Conversations, as well as to promote your event, business, or product across all our social media platforms, you can send that inquiry to DougGilbertPodcast@Outlook.com. We would love to work together with you to get that out there to the listeners of Dangerous Conversations. Remember to check out DougGilbertPodcast.com. There you can find links to all things related to this podcast, as well as Doug and Tommy themselves. You'll find a link to the Dangerous Conversations Facebook page and the Dangerous Conversations Twitter, now known as X. And we're always posting content daily, involving the Gilbert family, Tommy Rich, all sorts of things from their career. We got magazine articles, videos, pictures, you name it. We're posting new content every single day. Make sure you follow so you don't miss out on any of that. Plus, you can follow Doug and Tommy's personal Facebook pages on there. Dangerous Doug Gilbert. You can search that on Facebook. You can also search Tommy Wildfire Rich. They both have Facebook pages. And Doug does have an X page as well, and you can follow them there. But if you really want to help support, you can go to the Gilbert Family Pro Wrestling Tees store, which there's a link to there on the DougGilbertPodcast.com. And you can find t-shirts of Doug, Eddie, and their famous father, Tommy Gilbert, as well. Also, Tommy Rich is going to be having some t-shirts coming up very soon. Follow him on Facebook. We'll be talking about him here. But look for some cool new Tommy Wildfire Rich t-shirts coming out soon that you can partake in as well. Also, if you've enjoyed the show, please subscribe, rate, and review the show on the platform of your choice. It would really help us in building up the podcast for the future. Plus, it helps us know what you like, what you don't like, where we need to take this podcast moving forward. Also, if you want to see a whole bunch of matches, promos, and angles, a lot of the ones that you're going to hear us talk about on this very podcast, you can go and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@RetroWrestlingArchive. Of course, it's linked right there at DougGilbertPodcast.com, and you will find a ton of matches featuring Eddie Gilbert, Tommy Gilbert, Doug Gilbert, Tommy Wildfire Rich. There's playlists of all them that feature hundreds of matches of each of them. So make sure you go check that out. And not just of them, there are thousands, literally, at this point, of videos from wrestling from across the territory days, you name it. If we don't have the video uploaded to our channel, we at least have organized you a playlist of just about every territory, every show that's out there. You can find it in one convenient location there on YouTube at the Retro Wrestling Archive. Plus, don't forget, you can find all things related to my popular Retro Wrestling Review USWA podcast at uswapodcast.com. And last but certainly not least, we are proud to be a part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Go on over to WrestleCopia.com to check out all the great pro wrestling related podcasts and various content that our friend Ray Russell provides you. You'll be glad you did. So thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next week for another episode of Dangerous Conversations with Dangerous Doug Gilbert and Tommy Wildfire Rich.
In the heart of Tennessee, born with pride, Doug and Tommy taking rings in stride. Memphis legends never backing down, wrestling warriors, they wear the crown. USWA, glory in their veins, fighting legends breaking chains. In the squared circle they made their name. Podcast champions, it's their claim to fame. On the mic they rode, on the map they sold. Dangerous conversations, fans want to know. Podcast kings ruling the waves. Memphis wrestling raising the stage. From title belts to Hall of Fame, Doug and Tommy carved the name. Fists of fury and hearts of gold. Every story, every fight retold. Tales of glory, laughter, fans want him gone.